Death is the one truth that no one can escape. Yet it is also the one truth that most people avoid thinking about. From the moment we are born, we are walking toward it, step by step, though we do not know when it will arrive. Cultures and religions throughout history have struggled with its meaning, asking whether death is an end, a doorway, or simply a transformation. For some, it is a terrifying shadow that ends everything they love and know. For others, it is a mystery that conceals a higher purpose, something that gives life itself depth and value. Without death, life would lose its urgency. There would be no reason to love deeply, no reason to seek wisdom, no reason to live with care. Death makes life sacred because it reminds us that everything we have is temporary. The fear of death is natural, but behind that fear lies a secret. Death is not just about loss, it is about meaning. It is the moment when the soul is called back to the source, when all illusions of control are stripped away and the truth of existence is revealed. In this sense, death is not an enemy, but a teacher. It whispers to us in silence, reminding us that our time is short, that every moment matters, and that we must live with purpose. Facing death, instead of denying it, allows us to live more fully and to see beyond the surface of life. The question then is not whether death will come. It will. The real question is, what purpose does it serve in the great design of existence? To understand the purpose of death, we must first recognize that life itself is built on cycles. Nothing in creation is permanent. The seasons change, the stars burn and fade, rivers dry and return, and even mountains slowly crumble. Death is not separate from life. It is woven into its fabric. Every ending allows for a new beginning. When a leaf falls, it nourishes the soil, and from that soil, new life emerges. When an animal dies, it sustains other creatures and becomes part of the earth's renewal. In this way, death is not destruction, but transformation. It is the silent architect of continuity, ensuring that life remains fresh, balanced, and renewed. For human beings, this cycle has a deeper meaning. Our bodies, like everything in nature, are temporary vessels. They grow, flourish, and eventually return to dust, feeding the earth just as countless lives before us have done. But what of the soul? Death reveals that while the body belongs to the cycle of earth, the soul belongs to another cycle entirely, one that transcends the material. The purpose of death, then, is twofold. It maintains balance in the physical world, while opening the doorway to realities beyond it. Without death, there would be no growth, no evolution, no chance for the soul to progress. It is through death that the soul is released from limitation, moving forward into a greater journey. Just as a seed must crack and die to bring forth a tree, so too must human beings pass through death to awaken to the next stage of their existence. Seen in this light, death is not an interruption of life, but its completion, its bridge, and its renewal. Beyond its role in the cycle of existence, death serves as one of the greatest teachers a human being can encounter. Most people live as though they will never die, caught up in endless routines, chasing possessions, power, and temporary pleasures. Yet when death is remembered, priorities shift dramatically. Suddenly, wealth seems fragile, fame meaningless, and worldly victories short-lived. The awareness of mortality awakens us to what truly matters: love, kindness, wisdom, and the legacy of the soul. In this way, death strips away illusions and teaches us to value the eternal over the temporary. Imagine a traveler who knows his journey will soon end. He does not waste time collecting stones, but treasures moments, relationships, and lessons that will last beyond the road. Death gives life that same urgency. It reminds us that our days are numbered, and therefore each one is precious. Many fear death because they see it only as loss, but those who embrace it as a teacher see life more clearly. Every breath becomes a gift. Every act of goodness a seed planted in eternity. Death teaches humility because it shows us that no matter how great we become, we cannot escape it. It teaches compassion because we realize that every person we meet shares this same fate. And it teaches courage because it calls us to live fully while we can. In truth, death is not a end to meaning, but the very source of it. By reminding us of our limits, it pushes us to live beyond them. The greatest purpose of death may be that it forces us to ask the deepest question of all. How will I live knowing I will die? Beyond the physical and emotional lessons that death brings, its deepest purpose is spiritual. From the moment of birth, every soul is on a journey away from the source, clothed in the body, immersed in the world, and tested by the illusions of separation. Death is the moment of return, when the soul sheds its temporary garment and remembers where it truly belongs. It is not annihilation, but homecoming. Just as a traveler returns to the place from which he set out, the soul too returns to its origin. In this sense, death is not meant to be feared, but honored, for it fulfills the very reason for which life was given. The body is like a lamp that eventually burns out, but the light it carried, the essence of the soul, continues beyond, untouched by the flames extinguishing. This truth reveals why death is seen by many traditions not as a punishment, but as liberation. It frees the soul from the limitations of time, pain, and imperfection. It allows the soul to see clearly what was hidden during the distractions of earthly life. Death is a doorway into truth, the moment when masks fall away and reality shines in its fullness. Of course, this does not make death easy, for leaving the familiar always brings sorrow. But spiritually, its purpose is mercy, to bring the soul back into alignment with what is eternal. Without death, the soul would remain bound to a world it was never meant to inhabit forever. By passing through it, we are given the chance to awaken to a higher reality, to step into the eternal home that was always waiting beyond the horizon of life. When we look closely, death is not the opposite of life, but its completion, its final chapter, and its greatest teacher. Every journey requires an ending. Without it, the path would have no shape, no meaning, no destination. Death provides that destination, not by erasing life, but by giving it context. It gathers together every choice, every action, every intention, and brings them to a point of truth. In this way, death reveals the essence of who we are. It shows us whether we lived for fleeting desires or for what endures beyond time. Far from being meaningless, death is the very event that gives meaning to everything else. It is the reminder that we are not here forever, and so we must choose wisely how to spend the moments we are given. At the same time, death is not simply an end, it is also a beginning. Just as the setting sun marks the start of night and the rising sun announces a new day, death marks a transition into what lies beyond. Its purpose is to complete the earthly journey while opening the doorway to the eternal one. To fear it is natural, but to understand it is to see it as a bridge rather than a wall. In that understanding, death becomes less of an enemy and more of a companion, walking beside us to remind us of our higher calling. The purpose of death, then, is to complete, to awaken, and to return. It is the final act of life that carries us back to the source, where beginnings and endings lose their meaning and only truth remains. Seen through this lens, death is not the end of life. It is life's fulfillment.